A hug for me, it's it's a way of showing people at such a time right now where so many people are struggling just to say that they matter and show that they matter. I think a hug is a silent way of telling someone that I see you, I care about you, and I'll take it a step further beyond a simple handshake for a true embrace.
I'm Kevin Atlas, and I'm bringing some of the most successful, most inspirational human beings on this planet into your classrooms. They beat the odds, they overcame adversity, and through that, they found a way to believe. I've partnered with Varsity Brands to provide the answers, the blueprints. I have this heart that bleeds for the youth of this country, so I fight as a soldier for change, and I want us all to learn to lead, and not just to elevate ourselves, but to elevate each other. I'm looking for students nationwide to take action from what they learned from this series. This is how the world changes. It starts with you. I'm blessed to say that we have my good friend Ken Nwadike Jr. on the show, famously known as the Free Hugs Guy, who has an incredible story of overcoming odds and making something more out of his life.
I grew up in and out of homeless shelters. Around the time I was 8 years old, my father was arrested, and my mom decided she was going to take all 5 kids in our family and move us to Los Angeles. It was around 1991. Rodney King beating happens shortly after. Boom, riots all around us. While the rest of the country is watching these riots from the news, we're looking out the window, and it's like it's all happening right there. I think that was probably a really traumatic experience for me as a young person, having to witness that. Jumping in and out of these homeless shelters started to weigh heavily on my personality, where I went from being this very open, vibrant, outgoing kid to boom, homelessness, violence, and all this chaos that was going on around me. It caused me to kind of just shut down, keep to myself, became very shy and introverted at that time. By the time I got to the 11th grade, there was a track coach that had said to me, why are you always walking by yourself or looking down at the ground? And I said, well, it's easier that way because I get picked on a lot because I don't have the cool clothes or the cool shoes. And he said he wanted to invite me out to try out for the track team. And while I would go on these runs with them, it was the first time I felt this sense of belonging. I feel like running changed my life.
Ken did turn his life around and went on to have success as a track star, leading him to join the elite Nike farm team. He continued his career as a race director where he founded the hugely popular Hollywood Boulevard Marathon. But soon, tragedy struck too close to home.
It was the beginning of 5 days of terror.
We're watching this race, and then we heard the first reports that bombs had gone off at the finish line. And as a race organizer and a runner, I knew runners that were there. And so I'm calling people that I knew were probably spectators or people that were running in the race. And I'm like, is this true? Did this really happen? And then you start to see the news reports and then the scrambling around the finish line and hearing that a number of people didn't get to finish the race. And the first thing that came to mind for me was, how can someone attack a running race? And so right away, I knew I needed to have a response. Immediately, I started this campaign to get as many people to run the next Boston Marathon, because I didn't want runners to feel intimidated or afraid of participating in this sport that I knew was life-changing for me. And I was like, man, if people start getting fearful of going to races, then these terrorists won.
Ken knew he had to be in Boston the following year, but unfortunately he failed to qualify by just 23 seconds. A week later, he failed to qualify again by just under a minute.
I said eventually, maybe I'm not supposed to run in the race. And I had told these kids that I was mentoring at the shelter, I said, what do you guys think about if I print free hugs on a t-shirt and I fly out to Boston and I just hug as many people as possible to show them that they matter, that I care about them, and that how much I love this sport. And I'm talking to kids in the hood in LA, and so right away they're like, Ken, it's about the stupidest idea we ever heard of, man. Who's gonna hug some random brother in Boston, of all places, that's standing on the sideline of a race with a free hug shirt? And I was like, look, I don't know what's gonna happen, but it means that much to me. So I flew out there and I did it anyway. And I set up a camera with me and set it up on the side of the race. And to my surprise, as I was out there, thousands of people came in for that hug. And man, it moved me emotionally. It moved me in ways that I was like, man, how come this country, how come the world can't look more like this? Where just no judgment. People weren't running up and saying, oh, I would hug that guy, but he looks different than me. Or I would hug that guy, but I wonder what his beliefs are. But none of that mattered. It's literally just people, men, women, young people, old people, coming in and holding on for that hug. And I was like, man, if only we can make the world look like this more often. Why do we have to wait for a tragedy to take place for us to show this sort of love or respect towards one another?
By the time Ken had returned to LA, his video had already gone viral, amassing millions of views. Ken had created a nationwide movement. He now travels around the country visiting races, rallies, and riots, spreading messages of peace and love. But all that time, he never forgot about his roots. I met up with Ken in Reno, Nevada, where we decided to visit a very special place called the Eddy House.
Well, I mean, just walking up to it, it totally reminds me of the Gramercy Place shelter that I lived in Los Angeles growing up. And so I know that in places like this, kids can definitely use that boost, that encouragement to hone in on whatever their talents or skills are, to know that this doesn't have to be their finish line and they can keep moving forward in life and do some amazing things. So I'm glad I'm here, man.
Let's do it, man.
Cool.
The Eddy House acts not just as a safe haven, but a place of hope for homeless youth in Reno. They provide them a safe place during the day, food to eat, and work with them to develop life and job skills in order to set them up for success.
Watch your head. Downstairs.
That's where I put it.
So real quick,
Ken and I sat down with a group of kids and had an opportunity not only to go over our stories, but also to listen into theirs.
It's whatever. So I'll start on this side and then work my
They went around the room and shared their passions, and we were in for a big surprise.
Man, that's big. Can you play something for us? Oh, confidence. There we go. You see that? He's ready. All right. He's ready to do it. All right. I've been waiting for some. Is he for real? All right, cool.
Yeah, I heard.
Let's
People
see.
were
Let's
talking
scoop,
about
let's
you
scoop
when we
this
walked
up.
in.
I'm excited about this.
Got film this one.
Oh, man.
Yo!
My man. Man. Thank you for that, man. Wow. Mind
how old are you,
blown.
bro?
I think you said 19, right?
He's 19.
Mind
What's
is
your name
blown.
one more time? Joel? I don't have enough fingers. I don't know nothing about that life, bro. Mad respect.
Man.
I was not expecting that. That kid was amazing. He was so talented. You know, that's the thing, right? You just never know where talent could be hiding.
I love that all of you guys know what your talents are. Because I meet even young people when I'm speaking at colleges and I'll ask them what's their thing or what's their hobby. Most of them don't even know. And they're in college. And here you guys are in situations where you're like, man, we can use some help. And you go around the room and the way your face lit up when you talked about snowboarding and football for you, or Black Ops 4 for you, or you killing it on the piano, you know, just knowing that going around the room, that all of you guys, like, you know your thing.
These kids all have passions, but sometimes you just need a little push and guidance.
My passion is tattooing. Being a tattoo artist is kind of hard because I want to really get into it, but having to work check to check is kind of hard to kind of go after it. What would I do for that?
And I'm glad you asked that. Thank you for asking that. It's baby steps. So the time that you have away from work or family time, really honing in on that time of tattooing and filming it and getting it up on social media and talking to people about it, eventually charging people to do it. Then it becomes a business for you. You might see at one point, you'll see your tattoo work might exceed financially what you're making from your regular job. And then before you know it, now you have a business. That business starts to grow. You open up a shop, you've got staff, you've got employees, and then more time to spend with your family. And that's literally what it's been for me.
Passion into your paycheck, brother.
That's it.
But I'm gonna tell you how many tattoo shops do they have in Reno? But like, how many have you been in asking for jobs? And I'm not putting you on the spot there, but that's the difference.
You want actual hours in the street.
But don't make it an excuse. Get the license, the hours in the streets. Every single one of those people that have that job, that made their passion their paycheck, they did it.
I think it's extremely important for kids, especially for young people, to find their talent early. And it's like that escape can save your life, literally. I don't think people realize that little thing, that art, every time that you draw, you could be saving your life. Every time you run, you could be saving your life. Every time you play the piano or you hop on that snowboard or skateboard, just by default, you can put your life on the straight and narrow path by honing in on the things that you're good at rather than getting mixed up in some things that are gonna lead you down a dark path. I feel like people that start their life off with a really rough start have the greatest potential to create change moving forward because nothing was handed to us.
Because what's your truth? That's all we're getting to. That's what Ken's talking about, is what is your truth and how you live in it? Or are you just hustling to get by week by week? Thank you so much for your time. Can we get one giant hug? Is it weird?
For sure. I feel like the coolest thing about a hug and a real embrace, he's shielded, and a real embrace is just showing people that they matter, because I feel like we live in such a time right now where people go around feeling like they don't matter. And so even if it's just a bro hug, like the bro hug like that, or a for real embrace,
there it is.
You know what I mean? It's telling the person, I see you, you matter to me. I feel like handshakes I'm over handshakes, man. It's not enough. It's so cordial, but when you can give somebody a real hug, my man, there we go. See, I love that. That's what it is. So, he's a huggy person for sure.
Do it, man.
My type of guy, man. Bring it in, man.
Yeah,
hug it out.
I know.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. A lot of people think of homeless youth, they view them as kind of a lost cause. But when you go into that place and you feel all the love in there, it's like, man, some of us are more lost than even them that are living in this place where they're down on their luck and they're going through really difficult times. But you feel the love the moment that you walk in there.
This turned out to be an absolutely unforgettable experience. Being able to sit down with Ken and these kids and just be real and connect. I'll never forget this. We wanted to give back and show these kids our support and appreciation for opening up to us. So we ended the day with a big steak dinner. These kids have a tough road ahead, but I'm pulling for them. I want you to think about these kids. They could be sitting next to you in class. You don't know what their home life is like. You might judge them for that, and don't. I had a tough life growing up, and you didn't see that because I put on this front. Count your blessings. A lot of you might not be able to relate to these kids, but one of the biggest keys to happiness is straight appreciation. Just being happy and grateful for what you have. Gratitude is the key to happiness. You shouldn't just acquire that, you should spread it through your high school campus. You know what you could do? Wear a free hugs t-shirt. Go around giving hugs to people, that physical contact that means something to them. They might need that hug. You don't know what they're going to in their home life. Give someone a hug today.
You know, if you were to rewind back to when I was living in a homeless shelter and you met me back then, most people could not fathom, including myself, that this would be my life today. Most of us have to realize that hardship that we went through, we cannot allow that to be our finish line. And for me, I didn't allow my hardships or my struggle to be my finish line. I kept on running